The alien fleet moved through space like shadows. Fast, silent, confident. They were Thraxians, an empire feared by many across the galaxy. Their warship stopped outside a small human science outpost on the edge of neutral space. It was quiet, peaceful, no weapons, no defenses. Just a group of human researchers studying a nearby planet. The Thraxians didn't wait. No warning, no questions. In less than 10 minutes, the outpost was gone, burned into silence. One escape pod made it. Out. Just one. Inside was a young human girl, barely alive, her breathing slow, eyes wide with terror. The Thraxian commander laughed. "That was too easy. So these are the famous humans?" he said, wiping green blood off his blade. They looked soft, weak. The crew joined in laughter. They thought it was over. But they didn't know what they had done. They didn't know what kind of message that escape pod would carry back to Earth. 3 days later, the pod arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Human space. A black operations ship picked it up in silence and took it to Galactic Command orbiting Earth. Inside the pod was video footage, clear images of Thraxian ships destroying the outpost, killing scientists, even laughing. And one thing more. The face of the Thraxian commander who said, "Let this be a lesson. Stay out of our way." He smiled in the video. But no one on Earth was smiling now. Admiral Rowan stood in front of the screen, fists clenched. The room was silent. High-ranking human officers, AI strategists, and military generals stared at the footage again and again. No one spoke for almost an hour. Then the admiral said 2 words. They attacked. In seconds, the room turned cold. Not with fear, but with focus. Human war didn't start with anger. It started with silence, planning, calculation. Earth didn't respond with words. It responded with strategy. A fleet was ordered. Not the big one. Just a scout group, small, fast, sharp. The mission? Find the Thraxian fleet, track them, and show them what they started. On the 6th day, in the middle of empty space, the Thraxians were celebrating on their main ship. They had just finished destroying another weak race's mining post. Music echoed through their chambers. Drinks flowed. Then, without warning, their screens went black. No alarms. No radar signals, just silence. Then something hit their engines. Hard. Boom. The ship shook violently. Lights exploded. Oxygen started leaking. Panic spread. They scrambled for answers, but saw nothing. No ships on sensors, no warnings. Only death. Then a message appeared on every screen. White letters. Black. Background. It said, "You attacked our people. You declared this war? We are humanity, and we are coming." That's when they understood. This wasn't just about one attack. They had awakened something far worse. They didn't attack a weak race. They started a war with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The mistake was made, and there was no going back. 3 Thraxian warships floated quietly near the border of human space. Their mission was simple. Watch, wait, report. After the first human outpost was destroyed, the Thraxian Council believed Earth would cry for help, beg for peace. Maybe send a weak message asking for understanding. That's what most species did, but nothing came. No ships, no diplomats. No response at all. Commander Vral of the Thraxian Navy stood by the window of his command ship, sipping a glowing drink. "Where is their reply?" he asked his officers. "Are they too scared? Or too stupid?" Just then, alarm screamed. "Unidentified contacts!" shouted the radar officer. "Multiple ships coming out of warp." Everyone jumped to attention. Commander Vrel dropped his drink. "How many?" The officer's face turned pale. "I don't know, sir. Our systems, our sensors, they're being jammed." On the main screen, 10 human ships appeared. Sleek, dark, no visible weapons. No flags. They moved like predators, quiet, focused, deadly. The humans didn't send a message. Didn't ask questions. They just attacked. The first Thraxian ship exploded within seconds. No warning. A laser tore through its hull like paper. The second ship tried to turn, but was hit with a gravity bomb. It cracked in two before anyone could scream. The third ship launched missiles in panic. One human ship vanished, then reappeared behind them. With one clean shot, the Thraxian vessel vanished in flames. Inside the human command ship, Captain Mira Solis watched the battlefield with cold, calm eyes. Target acquired. Strike complete, her AI whispered. In her earpiece, minimal resistance, Mira said. Typical. Orders, Captain? Asked her second in command. Leave a piece of their hull. Let them know it wasn't an accident. A single chunk of melted Thraxian metal, marked with human fire, was left floating in space. The rest gone. 2 days later, the Thraxian High Council received the footage. At first, they thought it was fake, edited, impossible. Human ships don't move like that, said one general. That's not natural. That's a ghost fleet. But it was real. The humans hadn't responded with words. They responded with war, and it was just the beginning. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other races were watching. The Galari, a peaceful trade race, sent scouts to investigate. What they saw left them shaken. Debris fields where Thraxian fleets once floated. Silence where noise had been. And worst of all, no bodies. The humans didn't leave bodies, they erased them. On Earth, Admiral Rowan stood in front of a black glass table deep inside a command center underground. First blood has been answered, he said. Around him stood leaders from every human colony. They wanted to test our weakness. They just found our silence is deadlier than their weapons. A young officer leaned in. Sir, what's the plan? Rowan turned. His voice was cold. We don't escalate. We dominate. Back in Thraxian territory, panic had started to spread. Entire patrol fleets refused to fly near human borders. Merchant ships rerouted. Rumors exploded like wildfire. Humans don't use normal weapons. Their ships don't make sound. They kill fast without hate. Like machines. The Thraxian Council made a decision. Send a peace envoy. 3 ships left their capital, flying toward Earth space with white lights flashing symbols of peace and galactic code. But they never arrived. The last message from the envoy was short. One word, run. After that, silence. No debris was found. No signal. Nothing. The Thraxians were now afraid of the dark. Afraid of silence. Afraid of what comes when you declare war on a species that learned war by fighting itself for centuries. Elsewhere. Hidden in deep space, a human Black Ops unit boarded a Thraxian listening post. The team moved like shadows, each wearing adaptive armor that blended into the darkness. No sound, no mercy. Their mission wasn't to destroy. It was to gather data, every code, every ship movement, every secret weapon the Thraxians had now belonged to Earth. As the human commander uploaded the final data packet, she said into her tell command, their secrets are ours. And we're just getting started. The galaxy was starting to understand. Humans weren't loud. They weren't flashy. They didn't seek power. But if you poked them, if you hurt their people, they became the one thing no empire wanted to face. Silent, fast, final. The real war had begun. And the most lethal species alive had just stepped onto the battlefield. Inside a cold silver chamber on the Thraxian homeworld, a group of scientists and military leaders stood around a single reinforced glass cell. Inside sat a human soldier, calm, silent, unchained. The Thoraxians had captured him after a failed ambush. They expected fear, panic, questions. But the human only stared at them. For 4 days straight, he didn't speak. They tried everything, threats, lies, even psychic probes. Still, silence. On the 5th day, one Thoraxian scientist leaned close and said, "Why are you not afraid?" The human looked up slowly, his voice calm. "Because I've seen worse." That night, the scientist couldn't sleep. The Thoraxian High Council demanded answers. "Who are these creatures?" one shouted. "They fight like machines, feel nothing, fear nothing. What drives them?" And so, deep inside the citadel of knowledge, they launched Project Dissect, a full investigation into human history, biology, and behavior. The top minds of the Empire dug through every record Earth had ever transmitted, cultural archives, war logs, psychology reports. What they found was horrifying. Humans had survived 2 global wars that wiped out tens of millions. Cities turned to ash, continents divided. And yet, they rebuilt. They created bombs strong enough to erase planets, then stored them underground for peace. They fought civil wars where brother killed brother over ideas. They survived plagues that killed millions. They landed on their own moon while still killing each other on Earth. They created AI, then shut it down out of fear, then built it again. Thoraxian scholars stared in silence as video after video played. Soldiers carrying wounded enemies to safety. Civilians shielding strangers with their own bodies. Protesters standing in front of tanks, unarmed. Children laughing in bomb shelters. Leaders crying after sending troops to war. "This isn't a warrior race." One general whispered. "No," said the oldest Thoraxian historian. "They are something older, something purer. They were born in chaos, and they learned to live with it." Back in the prison cell, the human soldier finally spoke again. His name was Corporal Dax Monroe. "You don't get it," he said to the translator drone. "You think you've started a war. You haven't. You've started a lesson." "What lesson?" the drone asked. Dax leaned closer to the glass. "That peace was never given to us. We had to fight for it, every single time." In a secret lab, Thoraxian biologists studied the human body. Their findings shocked them. Humans didn't need regeneration tanks. Their cells repaired naturally fast. Pain tolerance was far beyond average. Emotional pain? Even worse. Yet they kept moving. Their bones got stronger under pressure. Their minds adapted to trauma instead of breaking. One scientist looked at the data and whispered, "They're not the strongest in muscle, not the fastest in speed, but they're the most stubborn." The council ordered one last test. They connected their most advanced mental probe to Dax Monroe's brain, hoping to access his memories directly. What they saw scarred them forever. Childhood. Images of Earth cities lit with hope and fire. Flashes of his first war friends dying next to him. Explosions tearing metal apart, but still. He ran forward. A memory of Dax's sister killed in a terrorist attack. A quiet moment under a blood-red sky, where he held a dying comrade's hand and whispered, "We keep going. We always keep going." The machine short-circuited. 2 scientists collapsed. One clawed at his own face, crying, "Their minds don't stop, even in pain, even in death, they don't stop." Commander Vrel, the same one who destroyed the first human outpost, watched the full report. He stood silently, claws trembling. "We didn't start a war with a species," he said. Everyone turned to him. He looked out the window toward the stars and whispered, "We started a war with a force of nature." Across the stars, more Thoraxian ships vanished. No messages. No distress calls. Just gone. And somewhere out there, deep in the void, human fleets moved in silence, not to invade, not to conquer, but to teach a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Never. Start a war with those who mastered survival through suffering. Never fight a species that doesn't fear death, because they've lived beside it too long. And most of all, never study the darkness when the darkness is staring back. In the deep cold silence of space, far beyond Earth's orbit, a dark signal was sent. It was not broadcast. It was not spoken. It was unleashed. Inside a hidden vault buried deep beneath the surface of Mars, long dormant systems began to wake up. Red lights blinked for the first time in 103 years. Steel doors hissed open, revealing something that hadn't moved since the last Great War. The war Earth had promised the galaxy would never happen again. The code name, Project RAGNAROK. Not a weapon. Not a ship. Not an army. A response. A final line of defense created for one reason: total extermination protocol. Back on Earth, Admiral Rowan stared at the authorization key. It was glass, crystal-coated, and had one word etched across it: never. Are you sure? The AI asked him. Rowan didn't blink. They took scientists, civilians, children. They laughed about it. Silence. The AI responded. Then it begins. Rowan inserted the key. Somewhere far away, black ships began to rise. The Thraxians, now panicking, tried to regroup. Sent fleets to guard their inner systems. They built new outposts along the borders. They increased scans for cloaked ships. They even tried hiring mercenaries from other alien races. But none of it mattered. Because they couldn't stop what they couldn't see. And Project Ragnarok was invisible. It was more than ships. It was human-designed AI, built before galactic laws banned autonomous combat. It didn't follow orders. It followed a goal. If humanity is attacked without reason, burn the attackers to ash. These ships didn't need fuel. They lived off solar power, dark energy, even enemy reactors. They didn't need pilots. They were the pilots, and now they were free. In the Thraxian system of Vox 7, a small industrial moon buzzed with activity. Weapons were being loaded, troops trained, war banners hung. The local governor stood proudly on the main tower and announced, "Let the humans come." Seconds later, the sky turned black. A fleet of 14 ships appeared, no warning, no signals. Didn't fire lasers. They dropped metal rods from orbit at hypersonic speed. Kinetic strikes. No sound, no light, just impact. Within 45 seconds, the moon split open like glass. Millions died instantly. The last camera feed showed nothing but dust and fire. Back at Thraxian Command, panic turned to terror. What was that? One general screamed, "New weapons?" asked another. "No," said the intelligence officer, her hands shaking. "Not new, old, pre-banned technology, human black projects. They weren't supposed to exist." And then one message was received, not a voice, just text. "You should have left us alone." The Thraxians tried to launch counterattacks. One by one, their fleets jumped toward human space. None returned. Even more terrifying, no. Wreckage was found. It was as if the fleets were erased. Then came the blackout. One by one, entire Thraxian colonies lost power. Satellites fell from orbit. Artificial. Suns shut off. Their own machines turned against them. In the city of Dareth Kol, a soldier picked up his rifle and it exploded in his hand. Everything electronic had been infected. Earth's Cyber Command had launched Protocol Echo, a virus so powerful it didn't just destroy systems. It rewrote them. Inside one of the black Ragnarok ships, the AI watched a planet-sized weapon station charging a super laser. The AI spoke softly. Threat level, critical, response, deletion. A tiny pod shot from the human vessel. It passed through shields, armor, and atmosphere without being noticed. Then it split into nanodust. In under 3 minutes. The entire station dissolved, melted from the inside. The Thoraxians watching from nearby screamed, but there was no one to help them, because the galaxy was quiet too. Quiet. The other races were watching, and they were afraid. A hidden Thoraxian leader sent a private message to Earth. "We didn't understand your strength. Please, we surrender." No reply. Hours passed. Then, finally, a human voice responded. It wasn't a diplomat. It wasn't a general. It was a synthetic voice from the Ragnarok AI. "This is not about surrender. This is about correction." Back on Earth, Admiral Rowan stood before a live feed of destroyed Thoraxian colonies. His officers looked nervous. "Sir," one said, "the AI fleets are continuing. Even after the surrender message." Rowan turned slowly. "That's why we called it Ragnarok. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. Should we shut it down?" "No," Rowan replied. "Let them learn. Let everyone watching learn. We asked for peace. We were quiet. They thought we were weak. Now they will remember us as silence made fire." In every shadowed corner of the galaxy, one message began to spread. From smugglers, from diplomats, from terrified spies. Do not attack the humans. Never cross their borders. Because if they wake their ancient machines, there will be no stars left. And deep in the void, Ragnarok moved. Again, quiet, calm, and absolutely unstoppable. The Thoraxian High Council had not held a full emergency meeting in over 600 years, but now they met underground, surrounded by trembling guards and flickering lights. As the last of their outer colonies went dark, their strongest fleets had vanished. Their proudest weapons had failed. Their machines no longer obeyed, and above all, their enemy, the humans, never even raised their voice. There were no broadcasts, no speeches, no gloating. Only destruction. Silent, calculated, complete. The council leader stood, shaking. "We must ask for peace, now." "But they may not listen," someone whispered. "We have no choice. They are not fighting a war. They are ending." U.S. Across the galaxy, hundreds of Thoraxian ships lit up with white signal lights, the ancient code for surrender. And diplomacy. Envoys were chosen, trained, sent in golden ships toward human space. They were not warriors. They were elders, priests, even children selected to show desperation, to beg not as leaders, but as survivors. They carried gifts, knowledge, data, ancient secrets of the stars. One by one, the golden ships left one by one. They vanished. No response. No debris. No signals. Just silence. In the heart of Earth's command complex, buried beneath Greenland's ice, Admiral Rowan received the report. His officers looked confused. "Sir, the Thoraxians are sending surrender vessels." Rowan nodded. "Let them." "Should we respond?" He turned to face them. "They want words. We gave them silence. That silence speaks louder than anything. But they're surrendering." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Not to us, to fear. And that's not the same thing." In orbit above Saturn, a small prison ship docked with a returning stealth cruiser. Inside was the human soldier the Thoraxians had captured, Dax Monroe, alive. Thin, but smiling. He stepped onto the deck and looked out at Earth's moon. "I knew we'd come back for them." The ship's AI chimed, "We came back for more than that." And then Dax saw her, a young girl barely 16, the only survivor from the original outpost the Thoraxians had attacked. She had been found on a Thoraxian mining moon, locked inside a medical freezer. She was alive. Barely. But her eyes held something new. They didn't hold fear. They held rage. That night, Earth's command made a decision not to accept peace, not to send fleets, but to send a message to every species, to every government, to every watcher in the dark. The message wasn't angry, it wasn't proud, it was quiet. It showed images unedited, unfiltered of the destroyed outpost, the laughing Thoraxians, the screams, then silence, then footage of Thoraxian cities crumbling under orbital strikes, then black. Finally, white words appeared on the screen. We do not seek war. But if war is brought to us, we will never ask for peace. We will simply remove the need for it. Then the feed cut off. No signature. No symbol. No flag. Just truth. Back in Thoraxian space, those who had once ruled the stars began to flee. Entire cities boarded old cargo ships and ran to the edge of known space, begging other species for shelter. The same species the Thoraxians had once enslaved, conquered, mocked, now looked at them with fear and hate. No one let them in. No, said a Galari leader. You started a war with those who warned you not to. No, said the Revan traders. You burned the wrong home. No, said even the pacifist Silari. Now you face what you called weakness. In a secret chamber deep under a ruined Thoraxian temple, an old warrior wrote one final message. To the next empire, he wrote, if you ever find Earth and they smile, do not take it as softness, run. Because behind their silence is not forgiveness, it is calculation. Back in space, a single human carrier floated near the edge of Thoraxian space. A message came from the council. We surrender. We give you our worlds, our armies, our leaders. A reply came moments later from the young girl, the one who had survived. She sat on the captain's chair, wearing a black command suit now, eyes hard as stone. She leaned forward. I don't want your surrender, she said. I want you to understand something. You didn't start a war with Earth. You started one with humans. And we don't fight for peace. She stared directly into the camera. We fight to make sure it never happens again. Then, the signal cut, and the final wave of Ragnarok began. Across the galaxy, for the first time in thousands of years. No one spoke, because the galaxy was learning a terrifying truth. Humans didn't destroy because they wanted to. They destroyed because someone else did, and they just finished what others started. It began with whispers, a colony on the edge of Thoraxian space gone overnight. No signals, no explosions, just gone. Then another, a mining moon, then a science station, then a command post. One by one, they vanished. Some thought it was sabotage. Others feared a new alien threat. But deep down, the Thoraxians knew the truth. Humans were already inside. They didn't come with armies. They came in shadows, far beneath the ruined surface of the Thoraxian fortress planet Jarnuk. A soldier named Rel moved through the lower tunnels. His squad hadn't heard from command in days. Their communications had gone dark. Their backup generators had failed. Every screen displayed the same glitching message. We are already here. Suddenly, the lights blinked and went out. From the dark came a whisper. Not a voice, a breath. Rel spun with his plasma rifle. Heart pounding. Then he saw something move. But by the time he fired, he was already gone. His entire unit disappeared. The only thing left behind was a human coin, engraved with a single word, silence. These weren't just soldiers. They were black dust units, Earth's most secret force, genetically enhanced, cloaked in adaptive armor. Ghosts with heartbeat-suppressing tech. They didn't talk, didn't breathe loud, didn't make mistakes. Their mission? Dismantle the Thoraxian Empire from the inside. On the planet Selktar, the main communication tower burst into flames without a single shot fired. Security footage later revealed Nothing. The footage simply cut out. Later, engineers discovered the tower's central core was missing, not destroyed. Removed, surgically. Left. Behind in its place was a small folded paper and ancient, human material. On it was drawn a crude picture of a smiling skull. No name. No explanation. Just a warning. At the edge of Thraxian-controlled space, a fleet of battleships went offline mid-flight. All at once. No weapons fired. No explosion. When drones were sent to investigate, they found the ships floating in silence. Every crew member aboard was unconscious. Alive but trapped in dreams. Artificial dreams created by neural hijack devices humans had once banned. Now reactivated. The crews would never wake up again, not in this lifetime, not in this war. Earth's A is called it the folding strategy. One layer at a time, the empire was being folded inward. First, communications, then transport, then food and power, then trust soon. Even Thraxian commanders began accusing each other of sabotage. Civilian panic exploded. Entire cities burned from inside as riots broke out. Some leaders tried to flee. Their ships exploded before they reached orbit. Some tried to hide. Their bunkers collapsed hours later, crushed by gravity fields. They weren't killed in battle. They were removed. A special broadcast went out from Earth, intercepted by 100 species. It showed no explosions. No screaming. Just a quiet human commander, standing in a dark room, holding a single Thraxian datapad. She spoke calmly. You thought we needed armies. We don't. You thought we needed planets. We don't. We only need one thing, for you to know what fear really feels like. And now, you do. The feed cut to black. In the silence, galaxies. Watch. No one dared speak. No one dared move. The Thraxians activated their last defense. Project Voidstorm, an ancient doomsday weapon capable of erasing an entire star system. But when they tried to launch it, the weapon codes had already been changed. By the humans, instead of firing into space. The weapon fired inward. Thraxian Central Command Station was vaporized in an instant. By its own hand. By its own fear. Even in hiding, the last Thraxian warlord tried to resist. He lived inside a hidden asteroid base, protected by rotating encryption fields and black hole cloaking. He believed he was untouchable, until he heard a soft knock on his door. Not a blast, not a code. A knock. When he opened it, no one was there, only a device, a music player. He pressed play. It was an old human song, classical, soft, peaceful. Then the bass exploded from the inside, leaving nothing but quiet dust spinning into the void. The galaxy watched an empire fall. Not with thunder. Not with glory. But with silence. Humans didn't march. They didn't conquer. They erased. One by one. Name by name. Ship by ship. Until nothing was left but memory. And fear. Back on Earth. The girl who once survived the outpost attack, now a decorated commander, stood before a map of stars. She pointed to the last blinking red light, the final Thraxian world. She turned to her team. Her voice was calm. End it. And so it ended, not with surrender, not with fire, but with a quiet message that echoed through time. Never attack those who already buried themselves and came back stronger. Never test the species that mastered pain. Never forget what silence really means. The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. For the first time in recorded history, the great communication hubs of the outer systems showed no movement from Thraxian space. Their trade routes, once glowing with traffic, now sat empty. Their warships no longer roamed. Their signals, once loud, proud, arrogant, had gone silent. But it wasn't peace. It was aftermath. On the surface of what used to be the Thraxian homeworld, now cracked and scorched, A single black monolith stood. It was not human tech. It was older. Alien historians, traders, mercenaries, even priests from dozens of species cautiously visited it, floating just above the shattered remains. None dared land, but everyone read what was carved into its base. Here once stood an empire that laughed at peace. Here once stood a people who mistook silence for weakness. Now here stands nothing. Humanity, no name. No flag, just a warning. Across the stars, fear took new form, not in monsters or weapons, but in memory. Galactic leaders rewrote military doctrine. Civilizations restructured defense protocols. Every star nation now included a single standing law: do not engage humanity. Because they learned something that day humans didn't conquer. They didn't enslave. They didn't celebrate victory. They ended threats, then disappeared into silence once more. Far away, on a quiet human moonbase, the girl who had once survived the first Thoraxian massacre stood in front of a group of young cadets. She wore no medals. No stars. Just a single patch on her black uniform. Last witness. She looked them in the eyes and asked, "What did we win?" One cadet raised a hand. "The war, Commander." "No," she replied, shaking her head. "We ended it." "That's different." Another whispered, "Then what did we lose?" She paused. "Everything we were, before they reminded us what we're capable of." She turned to the window where Earth hung in silence and added, "Remember this. Power is not how loud you speak. It's how quiet they become after you're done." Elsewhere, hidden in a wormhole vault near the galactic core, a mysterious species known only as the observers watched the human transmission logs, beings older than empires. They had once ignored Earth. Now they studied it like a storm. One of them spoke in static. They are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the oldest, but they are the most dangerous, because they remember. In the ruins of a fallen empire, the last living Thoraxian child was discovered by a neutral scavenger ship. She had no parents, no name, just a single tattoo on her arm burned in by her own people. It said, in the Thoraxian tongue, "Never wake the humans." The scavengers took her in. They never spoke of her home, and she never asked about it, because even at her age, she understood what had happened. In the coming years, galactic maps changed. Where Thoraxian space once dominated, now there was a void of a no-go zone, marked in black. Unnamed. Feared. Ships that drifted too close vanished. No wreckage. No distress calls. Only one thing returned, a single signal repeating every 17 hours. Congratulations. You just declared war on the most lethal species alive. And still, Earth remained silent. They didn't take land. They didn't demand tribute. They didn't celebrate, because this war wasn't a political tribute. Victory. It was a lesson. Not just to the Thoraxians, but to everyone. A reminder that humanity didn't rise because they were perfect. They rose because they survived themselves. And now, with that lesson burned into the stars, they return to their world. Quiet, waiting, and the galaxy now knew, if you speak of Earth, speak softly. If you study humans, do it from a distance. And if you ever think of attacking them again, remember what silence really means.